Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of a Summit Sit Down here during our Explore the Summit series that we're doing each week during the fall on our member institutions. And today is our friends from Kansas City, our newest member. Welcome back to the league. First of all, happy to certainly have you guys and excited to see what you're going to bring to our league. We are talking diversity and inclusion. It's an important topic in the world, and we're happy to be joined by Janae Johnson. She's a junior forward on the women's basketball team. Dr. Brandon Martin is the Director of Athletics, Vice Chancellor there at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. And then Marcus Johnson is a senior on the track and field team. So what we've been doing is just having you guys be able to kind of share why this topic is so important to you. And we'll start with you, Janae.
Yeah, for me, I find it significantly important because it plays a major role in being united, creating that form of unity, and then also negating and breaking down those stereotypes and generalizations that can be made if everyone is separated. So for me, diversity and inclusion is a great way to break that barrier and just have everyone come in and talk about those various different experiences with certain things and just realize that we have more in common than what we may perceive as if once we were separated. So that's really why it's important to me. And I just really love being involved on campus and just being able to talk about those, have those conversations with people. And especially now we've been able to talk about something that's originally been uncomfortable to talk about. So I feel this has really presented us with an opportunity to increase unity and really break down some of those stereotypes and generalizations. So that's why it's significantly important to me.
Absolutely. Good information there. Dr. Martin, how about you?
Yeah, I look at it similar to how Janae described it. I think this is an opportunity for us to have a respect for difference and really appreciate, the different things that we might believe, different opinions, different backgrounds, different cultures, different races. I think it's all about, especially in athletics, because we have the opportunity to come together under all of those differences. And I think, at least in athletics, we can be the leaders. We can be the leaders for change to society. I think also from a standpoint of, diversity is important now, and it's such a hot topic, but there's been a lot of voices that's been silenced for a long time. There's been a lot of voices. It took, the George Floyd murdering and some of the others in the last months to really bring out those voices. And those voices are voices of frustration, voices of being tired, voices of being discriminated against. And so I'm proud to see that our student athletes are having more of an opportunity to have a platform to have that voice, to engender the change that we want to see. Because our student athletes and the generations after them, that's really where the answers and the real movement are going to come from. And so I've been pleased about that. The next thing that I'll say is, as a Black man who grew up in South Central Los Angeles, for me, diversity is important. It's important for me to be able to walk into a room, be on a Zoom call, and people listen to me and not just hear me. There's two different things. And so from that standpoint, I would want people who maybe come from a different background, maybe a different race, to appreciate some of the things that I'm bringing to the table. And I think collectively, if we can appreciate those differences that I had mentioned earlier, I think it makes it a better athletic department, a better team, a better university, and a better society.
Absolutely good stuff there. How about you, Marcus?
Man, it's going to be hard to follow that. No, kind of pulling from ideas from both of them. It's a way for our campus and community to come together, to become more of a family. Kind of like Dr. Martin mentioned, it basically creates an understanding having that diversity and inclusion allows us to understand one another a little bit better. And by understanding one another a little bit better, we get to understand ourselves a little bit better, as well as the experiences of other people, which turn into basically a learning experience for everyone. And then we can learn to appreciate those differences and then strive to pass that on to both outside of the athletic department and the KC community as well, and maybe even beyond.
Yeah, no doubt there. And I've really enjoyed these conversations that I've had with the other members, and obviously the student athletes, as Dr. Martin mentioned, are the future, and it's the generation where this momentum is going to continue, and you guys probably are feeling things that you haven't felt before, maybe a little more empowered than you have before, which I think is incredible. So Janae, back to you. You talked about those conversations, on campus, even within your women's basketball program, like how have those been shaped, and how are those kind of helping you feel that energy and that momentum that change is going to happen?
I felt it immensely within our team, because our team, we're about half and half. I say we're equal. We're half white, half black, mixed, and we come from different backgrounds. We have a few international players as well. So really coming together in what we call team time. So that's when we have our time together, whether it's talks or different activities that we do to enhance our team development. We take out time to talk about topics like this. So, I recall vividly from one of our previous team times and discussions, I led one of the conversations, and it was just very eye-opening for a lot of even the coaches or even fellow teammates. They opened up about, various experiences, whether it was personal or through someone else that they've known who had encounters with discrimination or have faced these different types of stereotypes. So just knowing and being aware, as Dr. Martin made previously, and just being able to understand what they're coming from, what their background is, and that, they have these experiences, or I've had that experience too, or I didn't know you were going through that. I didn't know that you knew someone who'd been through that. Just creating a level of empathy, compassion, and understanding. So that's what we've been able to generate within our team. And that's something that I've been very, very passionate, animate, and really enjoy seeing.
Yeah, for sure. And that's encouraging to hear too, that time is being taken from the school, from the programs, from the departments, that, the topic isn't just going to get pushed aside, that it's remaining relevant. And that's awesome to hear. Marcus, how about you with the track and field team, or just on campus in general, like just the feel around campus there at Kansas City?
As for the track and field and each of your teams, we strive to kind of build that emotional intelligence, being able, like Janae was saying, with like the empathy aspect of things, we try to focus on with each other. That way, we can't always understand each other's experiences because we haven't experienced them ourselves. But we can listen, we can learn, and make sure that, if something does happen or something is important to one of us, that it's made known, especially when it comes to stuff like diversity and inclusion. As for campus and just being a part of some organizations within campus, it's very interesting to see the development of how UMKC approaches diversity and inclusion, because we're a very diverse campus in general. And so to see all these different programs kind of coming up to support different groups, especially when times can be sometimes difficult or challenging, it's a big statement to one, our athletic program, two, our campus, but again, back to that KC community. As Dr. Martin mentioned before, the athletics, we're the leaders of the future kind of thing. We can't do that without inspiring change on campus and then even outside of campus. So to prepare ourselves better for the future and whatnot, we have to be ready to have those discussions and continue things as best we can and learn from those opportunities.
Yep, absolutely. And again, just it's encouraging to see and to hear all these things happening there at Kansas City. Dr. Martin, for you, you were a collegiate athlete back in the early 90s, if you can remember that far back. Just kidding.
A long time ago.
But no, talk about, as the leader of the athletic department there, what you're wanting to provide for these student athletes that maybe you didn't have back when you were playing college basketball at USC.
First of all, I want to give credit to both Marcus and Janae for not only the way that they've responded to these questions, but their level of consciousness about what's really happening, right? So there's so many student athletes nationwide who don't have the same level of consciousness about what's real and what's not real. And so I need to give them credit for that.
For sure.
So as I look at what this opportunity has presented, it's been an opportunity for our athletics department to experience a rebirth to some degree. And it's sort of like an opportunity to blow up some of the myths, some of the stereotypes, some of the baggage that are related to discrimination, racial inequalities, and allowing us to sort of open up that can and have a conversation, a real conversation about it, and then have our student athletes lead that. So it's not just about my thoughts. It's not just about the coaches' thoughts on what they think. But if we think about we use a team analogy and a team example, every coach sits down with their team and they're trying to win a championship, whether it's a conference championship, a national championship, trying to win a championship. What this comes down to is how do we win the championship of diversity and inclusion and equity? How do we do that? How do we approach that? And then how people in my position, how do we pass that down to people like Janae, people like Marcus, and other people in their respective teams? And how do we hold people accountable? So that's been one of the issues with this, Ryan, is that when you look at coaches, in large part, they come to a university and campus and their charge is to win games. And sometimes they operate on an island and they're not really connected to the fabric of the university, which means they're not really connected to the diversity of the campus. And so my charge to the coaches is this is really adding another layer to how you are being evaluated on how you deal with issues related to diversity, inclusion, equity. How committed are you to that effort? Is there some teeth behind your words? Because we can say a whole lot of different things, but I think we really have to measure that off of actions. And so, I have probably a little bit more complex view of this. I probably have a little bit more of a sense of urgency for this because I really don't want this to be, just one moment, right? I want this to be a movement. And how do we sustain that movement? Well, the way that we sustain that is we continue to ignite the fire in these two student athletes so that they can take it back to their teammates and their peers and be able to carry that message back so we can see the outcomes that we want to have.
Very well said. Like that's incredible, and it's a perspective that not a lot of people have, especially just within athletic departments. And you mentioned sense of urgency, and it's not a moment, it's a movement. I think that's a very captivating kind of quote there to resonate on and to pull from. And with that said, Janae and Marcus, why does this burn so deeply in you guys? Like to hear your leader of your department, kind of to push you guys back and to keep this momentum going?
Well, for me, it all starts with leadership. And, I feel like we're fortunate enough in a situation to have a Black athletic director who is not only can resonate with the diversity and inclusion and speak from experience, but also implement it within the programs. So for me, just seeing how passionate he is about it and then just resonating, knowing my personal experience about it, whether it's through family, friends, and me personally, that's why I'm so passionate about it. He kind of set the fuel to the fire that was already within me and just kind of made it a bigger flame per se. So that's that's really what it is for me.
Good. Marcus, how about you?
I would actually agree with a lot of that. Dr. Martin finally kind of get out and say something to be able to be a part of, this movement and try to make a movement. He has a lot more experience than either of us do, and his experiences may be different than ours, but that doesn't make them any less pivotal, any less, substantial. And so combining that with the experiences that we have all had, we can take that back to people that have told us their experiences, and then we can get them a part of the movement. And, it's really about, getting that resonating effect going, because once that movement started, it can become a very powerful force. It's just, how are we going to get there? And like I said, Dr. Martin has provided us the platform to do so.
Right.
And then also, I know over the summer, as soon as this happened, Dr. Martin called a Zoom meeting with the entire department for everybody to come on and just kind of create a field of empathy and just like privacy, that you can feel comfortable talking about how you feel about the George Floyd situation, anything that's on your mind, just letting that out. And from that moment forward, I was all in, 10 toes down, and just ready to go. Because I'm like, you know what? He's supporting it. I have his back. He has my back. So let's go. Let's ride. Anything that I can do to help and move this thing forward.
Good. Thanks for sharing that little bit there. And Dr. Martin, we talked about the momentum being on Kansas City's campus and within your athletic department, but you're also the chair of our Diversity and Inclusion Task Force at the Summit League. So we wanted to reach beyond, just the one campus, and you guys talked about keeping the movement going. And what's your we've been meeting, in that group for 4 to 6 weeks now. What are the goals for that, just to share kind of with the group and with the people who are going to watch this?
Yeah, I think it starts with the student athletes. We had talked about that support statement for the national anthem and supporting your student athletes in that respect. I think number 2, I think it's important to focus on hiring practices. That's extremely important. And that goes beyond just coaches. That's, how many, folks of color you have in your administration, who are touching the day-to-day lives of the student athletes. That's important. I also want to create an operational plan related to diversity and inclusion that's disseminated across our league, and it's something that we make a priority each one of our council meetings to talk about, because this cannot just be, and I go back to this, it can't be a season where this is a hot topic and we excite and ignite a lot of people when we have these great conversations. And then we look back next October, November, and then everything has died down. We have no momentum. And so I've heard a lot of different opinions about diversity and inclusion, particularly as it relates to the election, right? So when we look at the election, one of the things that we're talking about now is making sure that our student athletes vote, and not just vote, but understand why they should vote, and understand all of the factors that go into that. And so notwithstanding the election and what happens with that, we still need to have the same passionate conversations next year this time, if we're truly committed to it.
Right.
Now, if we're just trying to check a box, which I'm not insinuating that the Summit League and we've done some tremendous work for the last 4 weeks or so. But if we don't continue that momentum, it's going to be perceived that we're checking a box because we haven't made incremental progress for the student athletes and we haven't had early wins. And so it's going to take a concerted effort from all of us. And we cannot do it without the voice of the student athletes. We cannot do it. We might feel like we have all the answers as administrators, but we don't. And if we don't involve the student athletes, then our our programming is not going to really maximize the true potential.
For sure. Thank you for, sharing that and about the goals of that organization and that committee that we formed here at the Sun League this year. And we certainly want to keep the momentum going. And it certainly is encouraging to talk to you three and hear what's going on at Kansas City. And it's uplifting, and it's not about checking the box. It's about making change. And I think we're committed to doing that. And it's certainly awesome to see what Janae and Marcus and their passion, and it comes from leadership, and we certainly appreciate what you're doing there on the campus at Kansas City, Dr. Martin. Thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. It was very good, just good information, good perspective, very well spoken. You got two student athletes there that are tremendous ambassadors for Kansas City, and we certainly appreciate what Marcus and Janae are doing on campus there. So thanks again, guys, for taking a little time to talk diversity and inclusion and to show our membership and our fans what's going on in Kansas City.